Hey, what's everybody? It's Albie, and today I have a really cool video for you guys. So my friend the Rhino, also known as MTG Young Mage, reached out to a bunch of us YouTubers over on the Kitchen Table MTG forums and gave us a challenge. So for today's challenge, we had the two welcome decks. We each got two different colors of welcome decks. The chosen colors I was given were black and blue, and we had to take these two welcome decks, they're 30 card decks, we put them together to make one standard legal 60 card deck, and that was our starting point. From that point, we could then do a $5 upgrade and then see what our deck looked like from there. And then we got to do an additional $10 upgrade for a total of $15. So today you're going to see three different decks. One is just what the two welcome decks look like together. The second deck tag is going to be what I did with my $5 additional to add on upgrades to the deck, and then what I did with the additional $10 to turn it into a total of $15 worth of upgrades to the deck. The deck turned out really cool, and I mean, this was not what I was expecting for only $15 worth of upgrades from a welcome deck. I think my deck turned out surprisingly playable. Like, it's almost competitive. You might be able to just go to your Friday Night Magic and end up in the prizes with this deck. Like, it's pretty cool. You might not be able to win the entire event, but there's definitely a lot of really good cards in here that I threw in, and I think it's a very competitive deck for the $15 that I was given, to make this deck. So we're going to go ahead and just start off with the deck. Before I begin with the deck, though, I just want to tell you guys, down low in the description, there's going to be a link to everybody else's channel who was involved in this challenge. Like I said, the Rhino, also known as MTG Young Mage, reached out to a bunch of us, and so there was a lot of us involved in this challenge, and you can check out everybody else's video there. Personally, I think my deck is really cool, so I'm kind of ready to see how my deck stacks up against everybody else's deck, because I think this deck turned out super sweet. So be sure to check out everybody else's channel in the description below. Go watch their videos. These are going to be great for new players, and without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the decks. So what you guys are seeing on your screen now is the welcome deck. So this is the black welcome deck, which is 30 cards, and the blue welcome deck, which is 30 cards, shoved together to create a 60 card standard legal deck. These welcome decks are given to new players for free from local game stores. I know we have some at my local game store, and I've given them out to people before at my LGS when they were first starting to learn Magic. So these are really cool little helpful tools. However, in order to play in a standard event, you need 60 cards in your deck. So this takes the two welcome decks that you would get, puts them together, and then these are the 60 cards. There's not really anything too amazing here in these cards. The two cards that stood out to me the most were Nightmare and Sphinx of Magosi. Sphinx of Magosi is obviously a great card. 6 power flyer, seems really good, and it has the best 3 words in Magic on it, which are draw a card. As you learn to play Magic, you learn to enjoy the words draw a card a lot more than you do when you first begin. So if we're able to start people early on into their Magic career by learning how great it is to draw cards, then boom, we'll be in business, and they'll be able to turn into some great Magic the Gathering players. The other card I mentioned was Nightmare. Nightmare is a really good card. However, Nightmare is only good in mono black decks because it comes down to the number of swamps you're running. Yes, there are still 13 swamps in the deck, so it is possible to make it into a 6 power flyer, or even, a much bigger flyer than that. However, if you're not running mono black, the chances of it just coming down as like a 6 mana 2 power flyer are definitely there. The chances of it coming down as like a 6 mana 3 power flyer are definitely there. And there's just not enough upside to that. With the downside, since we're running a 2-color deck, if we were just running straight up mono black, I would throw like 4 copies of Nightmare in there, because Nightmare is super good in a mono black deck. However, it just doesn't work when we're playing 2 colors, so I decided to actually cut Nightmare from the deck when I made my next upgrade. So like I said, this is the welcome deck with no changes made to it, and now we're going to take a look at the deck with $5 worth of upgrades in it. So what I decided to do with my $5 worth of upgrades was I added in 4 copies of Murder, 3 copies of Deadweight, 4 copies of Dimensional Infiltrator, 1 copy of Sphinx of Magosi, 2 copies of Hieroglyphic Illumination, 4 copies of Anticipate, 2 copies of Essence Scatter, 1 copy of Negate, 1 copy of Spell Shrivel, and 4 copies of Submerged Boneyard. I forgot to mention in the beginning of the video the way we're doing pricing. All commons are 10 cents, all uncommons are 25 cents, except for the obvious ones like Grasp of Darkness, Censor, Fatal Push, cards like that. Those cards are obviously worth more than 25 cents, and you're not going to be able to pick them up from your LGS for 25 cents. So commons are 10 cents, uncommons 25 cents a piece, and then the rares all go off of their TCG player mid prices. So for Sphinx and Magosi, we're looking at 25 cents each, and then for Dimensional Infiltrator, those were 35 cents each. So I managed to add in 26 new cards for under $5, so this is what the deck looks like now. As you can see, I decided to focus more on the spell side of things, start turning the deck into a little bit of a control deck. The goal is to be able to draw through our deck, make sure we can get out our powerful cards like Sphinx of Magosi or even Angler Drake, and meanwhile, we're just going to kill all of our opponent's creatures. We have some kill spells in there now. There's Essence Extraction, Murder, Deadweight, some Essence Scatters as well in order to counter our opponent's creatures. Dimensional Infiltrator is a very important card here. I don't think a lot of people would have gone with Dimensional Infiltrator, but Dimensional Infiltrator is a flash flyer, so we're able to hold up things like Essence Scatters and Negates. And if our opponent doesn't play anything that we want to Essence Scatter or something that we want to negate, we can just go ahead and flash in a Dimensional Infiltrator instead and just start beating down with a 2-power flyer. It's a nice little clock and, gets some damage through. If our opponent wants to use a removal spell on it, that's also fine. And then we can play things later on in the game like an Angler Drake or a Sengir Vampire or a Sphinx of Magosi, where they won't have the removal spell for that because they already used it on a Dimensional Infiltrator. I also decided to add in 4 copies of Submerged Boneyard. Mana is something that is very important, and in terms of non-basic lands, these Submerged Boneyards were basically the only non-basic lands that we could really throw in the deck without going too high on the budget requirements, because most non-basic lands are going to be rares, which generally causes their price to be higher. So these Submerged Boneyards were just a nice little, they were $1 for 4 of them, so the Submerged Boneyards do help out our mana a little bit. And I think we're a very nice upgrade. So now we have an additional $10 to use in upgrades. This takes us from $5 in upgrades all the way up to $15 in upgrades. I decided to, so in the last upgrade, when we had $5 to spend, I upgraded 26 cards. We got 26 cards for $5, which was very good. It set us up very, very good foundation for our deck for future upgrades that we could make, which was something I was looking to do since I knew I was going to have an additional $10 to upgrade with. And so with these, I decided to focus on cards that were a little bit more expensive, but cards that were definitely going to help out our deck a lot more. So what I decided to get with these $10 in additional upgrades are 3 copies of Grasp of Darkness, 3 copies of Glyph Keeper, 1 copy of Gonti Lord of Luxury, 2 copies of Hieroglyphic Illumination, and then finally, as the big card, I wasn't sure if I wanted to throw it in. It's, I believe, the most expensive card in the deck, but I felt like new players would absolutely love this. If they're playing blue-black control, you gotta get them to learn to love their planeswalkers. So I threw in 1 copy of Ob Nixilis Reignited. The card is surprisingly only $3 right now, so it was a very easy include. When I saw that, I thought new players would absolutely love to run a planeswalker in their deck. And so this Ob Nixilis Reignited is a very good planeswalker for only $3. I tried to fit in 2 copies, but I decided that the other cards were just too much more important. Grasp of Darkness is obviously just an amazing removal spell. We weren't going to have the budget to do Fatal Push, obviously, so these Grasp of Darkness were definitely necessary. And the Glyph Keepers are also just really good cards. So now the final deck, after $15 worth of upgrades, we went from the 2 welcome decks shoved together all the way to this deck right here. So again, like I said, we're focusing more on the spells. There's a total of 25 spells. It says 21 here, but then you also include the 3 enchantments and the 1 planeswalker to make it 25 spells. I cut down on 1 land here as well. We're only running 25 lands now instead of 26 like we were in the past 2 decks. I feel like this deck could work a lot better now that we have some additional card draw. We have 2 more copies of Hieroglyphic Illumination, which is very important. It allows us to draw cards, which we can draw more land cards faster and things like that. The creatures, obviously we don't have a lot, but the creatures that we do have are all very good. Dimensional Infiltrator works very well in this deck. Like I said, we can hold up mana to kind of threaten that we're going to murder one of our opponent's creatures or that we're going to counterspell something, and instead we can just flash in the Infiltrator and then just start beating for 2 damage once it comes back to our turn. Gonti is a very, very fun card. I love this card both competitively and casually, and I feel like new players would also do the same thing. They would love the card because it's a 2/3 death touch, and then you get to look at your opponent's cards, which is also really cool. And then you get like that whole factor of if you're playing at the kitchen table with your friend, you're like, I just stole your best card, you know. So it's definitely one of those very cool cards, and it's also very competitive as well. It's put up results in the Pro Tour and things like that. Anyway, the 3 copies of Glyphkeeper, like I said, really good as well, and the Sphinx Magosi also just really good creatures. So we have very good creatures, even though we don't have a lot of them, and then we have good ways of just keeping our opponent's creatures off of the board and making sure that they can't do what they want to do. Meanwhile, we're over here drawing cards, we're over here countering things, and then eventually we're just going to slam down some Glyphkeepers and attack for 4 turns and just get in there, or we can play Sphinx of Magosi and do the same thing. So this has been the deck. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you are a new player and you guys are just seeing my channel for the first time, I usually don't do a lot of new player stuff. However, I would really appreciate if you guys did click the subscribe button. I like to do a lot of things more on the competitive level, so I think my channel could be something where you guys could kind of take the first steps into playing a little bit more competitively. So I believe that my channel could definitely help you guys. If you guys are ready to start winning at FNM and things like that, be sure to click the subscribe button, and I'll see what I can do, try and help you guys out on your quest to becoming, you know, Friday Night Magic winners, game day winners, and just all sorts of fun things like that. If you guys are watching the video and you're not a new player, be sure to subscribe as well. Like I said, I make all sorts of videos, generally more competitive, but I decided to do this casual thing for the new players because it was just a really cool idea by the Rhino, and he reached out to all of us at the Kitchen Table MTG forums, and it sounded like a really cool idea, a very fun idea for me to kind of test my deck building skills and see what I could put together for $15. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Like I said, be sure to check out everybody else down low in the description who is a part of this challenge. Be sure to subscribe to them as well and like their videos. Tell me whose deck tech you thought was the best. Was it mine? Was it somebody else's? Be sure to let me know because I'm very intrigued to see what you guys have to say. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching the video. Peace.